Hello everybody, it's Lazel here with another video, and while I'm waiting for lake monsters to spawn, I want to talk about indicators for maybe a risky hit, especially when you are in Void War or for example while you are in Battle Frenzy. So if you see a target that has no bubble, it is often a no-brainer. You mostly do sign-ins or you go solo for that target, but it can also happen that you run into a trap castle. So today I want to talk about some indicators that might show you that you are about to run into a trap castle. So first of all, when you see an unbubbled castle, the first thing that you should always do is click the castle and immediately go into the player info and see, okay, about how much battle power are we talking here. It always depends on the corresponding castle level, but when you see, okay, I have this and this amount of battle power, I would need that many players, or maybe I should buff up, and so on and so on. These are the first things that come to mind, especially for me as a solo player. Can I take on that castle alone, or do I need to ask friends if they want to help me out? But we are talking about finding out if it is a trap castle. So the first thing when you see an unbubbled castle that might be an interesting target for you is click the castle, go into the player info and check out the alliance and find out, okay, about what an active alliance are we talking about here. Is it the main alliance of the kingdom? Is it just a farm alliance, or is it a rank, let's say 4 to 5 alliance, so you can estimate how risky it is, how many active players are in that castle that might reinforce. So this is the first thing, because we also have alliances that aren't very high ranked but are filled with capable players that are also interested in especially doing trapped castles then, while they are not the big alliance of the kingdom. And so these people are often able to trap you. So don't just think because it is the level 4 or 5 or even 10th alliance in the ranking of the kingdom that it doesn't mean it can be a trap. I have to say, it happened to me a few voids ago that I saw this one castle from an alliance ranking, let's say 13th ranking for example. I don't know if it really was that ranking, and I asked a friend for help, so we attacked it with 2 players and we got heavily reinforced. We lost a lot of units and especially angels, so we are still recovering from that hit, and this is also a reason why I want to do this video, because these guys played it very well, and as I just said, I just want to talk about the indicators for that. So the first thing that you always want to do is when you want to estimate how risky that hit is going to be is check the alliance. First alliance, second alliance, 10th alliance, whatever. So the next thing that you are about to do is always check if there is a march going out from that castle, especially when it goes to the Blacklands. What you want to check out for is, does the castle or has the castle sent out the Royal Challenge? And the Royal Challenge, for everybody of you guys that is above castle level 30, you can do it. You know that you can send as many troops out as possible, and so you are able to hide troops in that Royal Challenge march. And you can also keep a few troops at home just so you stay under your hospital capacity. So always check if from the target that you want to hit, if there's a march going across Blacklands or just very far away from that castle. This is actually pretty easily done. You just check the castle if you can see marches from there. Another thing what I think is very important if you wanna rate how risky a target is that you check out especially the Lord level and the military ranking. I think that Lord level and military ranking are indicators that show how active and how skilled a player is. I don't want to say that a high commander player, for example, is an unskilled player, but what I want to say is that it just shows how many events that player has played. And the more you play or the more work you put into anything, the better you get and the more skilled you get. So if you see a castle, let's say for example here in my alternative castle, and I see it has Lord level 50 and a military ranking of high commander, for our kingdom this is very low. And so I know, okay, it is a player that isn't often online, it might be an alternative castle and just not that active. I would always prefer a target like this with a low Lord level ranking and a low commander ranking over a castle, let's say like one of my friends here in the alliance that is a Lord level 60 and a military ranking commander in chief. These are always very interesting indicators, especially in my opinion for solo hitters, because players that have a high Lord level ranking also have a lot of additional technology here in the Lord skill tree, and I think especially for solo hits that makes a big difference. We have talked about alliance ranking, we have talked about if the RC is out, we have talked about that you definitely need to take into account the Lord level and the military ranking especially. You can also do that with the castle level ranking, because trap castles tend to be on a very high castle level, so they can have higher levels for their hospital. You need to take everything into consideration and compare it to your kingdom, just what you know from your rankings in your realm. So always, I think that is something that everybody should do once in a while. Just check, okay, what is my Lord merit ranking, for example, or what is my Lord level ranking. All of these things are important for you to know, okay, players with my playtime, where's the ranking, what is the benchmark? We talked a lot about that. Next thing. These are all things that you can do without scouting the target. For the most active alliance, you probably are not going to scout it, but let's say for a lower ranked alliance, you can go for a scout. It always depends on your individual situation. So if you scout it, there are some things that you can see in a scout report that are very interesting. First of all, we will talk about the troop count. When you have scouted the target, I sadly cannot scout my alternative castle, but what I said in the beginning of the video, when you check the player info, always keep in mind, okay, we're talking about that much battle power. It is a C32, so the highest troop quality is tier 10. About how much tier 10 are we talking about here? So then you can go to or you should do all of that in advance so you have a feeling for it, so it doesn't take too much time. When you see, okay, tier 10 units have a battle power of 9.7. This castle has a total battle power of 31 million. You know, okay, there might be up to 1.5 million troops, let's say, just for an example. When you then scout the target and see the number of troops that are in the castle is so low that it just doesn't fit the battle power of the castle, this is a clear indicator that it is a trap. If you see, okay, the numbers just don't fit. The battle power of the castle that I can see from the player information is way too high. For the troops that are in the castle, it is clear that the player prepared that castle to be hit. It is most likely a trap. Also, take into consideration, okay, it is a C32. How high might the hospital limit be? When you then check or quickly check into your details, okay, what is my max wounded capacity? And then you subtract that back to the castle level that you are about to hit, you get a feeling, okay, is this guy under his hospital capacity? And also, since we got the sanctuary update, it is even more tempting for players to keep, let's say, 300 to 400k of troops above their hospital capacity, because they know, I want to be an attractive trap, maybe for an SOS or a small stack or a big stack, it doesn't matter. I am willing to have a few losses if I can get a good defense in. Very important, check the corresponding hospital limit for that castle level. It is also an indicator, and then also take into consideration that there is the sanctuary. So this is the first rating that you need to do from the scout report. Another thing, I just scouted one of my castles here. I will quickly check for leg monsters again. Okay, there aren't any. When you get a scout report, you can see the total army, one thing. But what is also very interesting, it might not always happen, but check the not harvested resources. You know that the game keeps producing resources until you reach your limit, and it might happen that the player just out of pure instinct shakes his phone or tablet or whatever and collects all of those resources. And then you see, okay, just a few minutes ago, because the amount of the not harvested resources is so low, this player is active. He knows that he has no troops at home, he has no bubble, he is aware of that. And by doing the mistake of shaking his phone and collecting resources, as I can see from the scout report that the not harvested resources are very low. This is sadly not shown here in this report, but you know what I'm talking about. This is clear that the player is active. not harvested resources is a good thing for you to check if it is an active castle. A very good trap is aware of that and won't shake their phone and collect the resources, but depending on how you're feeling that day, it might be just out of pure instinct that you collect the resources. Another thing, what you can see from the not harvested resources, if there is an amount at home, but if you see, for example, here from the scout report of one of my farms, for example, that the not harvested amount of wood would be at 0 and amounts of food, stone and iron would be higher than 0, it shows that the player is skilled, in my opinion, or has some experience with the game, because players know that from a certain castle level, for example, you won't be lacking in wood or in food anymore. So they remove these tiles completely and have 0 production of wood, for example, and put more into food because they want to upgrade more barracks, and for barracks you need more food than wood. This is also an interesting indicator that you can see out of a scout report. And these are a few things that I use either without sending a scout or with sending a scout to rate how risky a hit might be if I want to go solo or if I prepare a group attack. When you look into these things, it will come from time when you are the leader of attacks, or if you're going solo, that you will get more experienced with all of these things that you take into consideration if you want to go for that one target or not. As I just said, a few months ago, it happened to me that, for example, the castle that I wanted to hit had this, what I just talked about. It had 0 wood, but it had a bit of food, stone, iron, and that showed me again, okay, this player is experienced. I didn't take it into account. We attacked it and we got heavily reinforced and lost a lot of units. This is the reason, and in general, why I want to talk about it. I think it is very interesting for you guys, and I would really appreciate that if you have listened until here and you still have some things that you want to share with the whole community about how you rate how risky a hit might be. Let us know down in the comments below. I would really appreciate that. And then I would say, see you in the next video. Goodbye, guys.